Hare Krishna, Haribol to everybody. So it's the 19th of February, Monday, and Sri Rāmānuja Tirobhava, Disappearance Day. So today, principally, I'm going to just speak on Rāmānuja, and we'll see how we go for time. If we conclude it early, but although there's so much to say on Rāmānuja, so I don't think we'll do Jaiva Dharma today. It'll just be glorification of Rāmānuja. So we'll have a kirtan. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari O Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Yamuna Tira Vanachari O Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari O Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Oh, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai. Oh, Jaya Sachinandan, Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachinandan, Jaya Gaura Hari. Sachinandan, Jaya Gaura. Oh, Jaya Radha, Madana Mohan Radha, Madana Mohan Radhe. Oh, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Oh, Radhe, 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 Radhe. Jai Shri Shri Guru Garanga Ganhavika Giridhari Radha Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai Brishabhanu Nandini Vajeshwari Ki Jai Nityananda Rai Ki Jai Sachinandana Gaurahari Ki Jai Shrimati Radharani Ki Jai Jai Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai Surabhi Kunj Ki Jai Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tadasara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tadasara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tadasara Shishimad Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Jagat Guru Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tadasara Shishimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Paramahamsa Mahabhagavat Srila Gaura Kishodas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Saptam Goswami Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Jai Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Jai Srila Baladevi Dibhushan Gaudi Vedantaracharya ki jai. Jai Rasik Siromani Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur ki jai. Jai Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Treya ki jai. Jai Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami ki jai. Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Shri Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu's ki jai. Jai Swarup Damodar Rai Ramananda Gauda Parsada ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Siga Holsi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Shri Gauda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Anta Dweep Maya Manta Dweep Gautama Dweep Madhya Dweep Kola Dweep Rituji Chana Dweep Motan Dweep Rudra Dweep Atmaka Navadweep Dham ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Govardhan Dwadasa Vardmatmika Shri Brajamandal ki jai. Shri Radha Kun Shama Kun Ganga Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi ki jai. Shrimati Brinda Devi Maharani ki jai. Shrimati Yogamaya Punamasi Devi Maharani ki jai. Gopishwa Mahadev ki jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra ki jai. Ketra Mandal ki jai. Sarva Vigna Vinashakari Shina Shingadev Bhagavan ki jai. Bhakta Prabha Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Charidam ki jai. Chari Sampradaya ki jai. Chari Acharya ki jai. Jai Keshav Akara Mat Raj Shri Chaitanya Mat ki jai. Shri Keshav Ji Gaudiya Mat ki jai. Shri Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagat Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Prem Nandi. Shri Rāmānuja Tirobhava ki jai. Jai. Om Agina Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Priya Sarupe Daita Sarupe Prema Sarupe Sahajabi Rupe Nijana Rupe Papueka Rupe Tatana Rupe Swabilasa Rupe Anapita Chirim Chirat Kuruna Vartino Kalo Samarpaitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundaratu Tikatamba Sadipita Sadahritare Kanare Spuratu Vasachinandanaha Yam Pravajantamanapetyam Apeti Krityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putre Titam Mayatayo Tarabo Vinirustam Sarvabhutam Hridim Munimanatoshmi Bhaktiya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadi Tarangamadhye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapana Vrinde Namaste Charanaravindam Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karuna Varadram Tato Mamanasti Katyana Kapi Tavaivasmi Najivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Naimam Charantikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Astotar Shishimad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again millions and millions of times unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Astotar Shishimad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada. And I'm offering again to our beloved Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namane Gauda Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Vrayate. And to all our esteemed Rupanuga Guru Vargya and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhavevacha Patitanam Pavnivyo Vaishnave Namo Namaha. So today is the most auspicious day. Yesterday, the disappearance day of Madhvacharya. And it's practically all the way through this week. We have Ekadashi tomorrow. Then we have Varaha appearance. Then we have Nityananda Trayodasi. And then just around the corner, we have Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj appearance day. And then we have the appearance day. Is it Avibhav of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati on the 29th? You all don't know. Blah, 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 blah. Which Avibhav, thank you. Yes, I thought so. There's been lots of commercials about it and so on, but no one's okay. I didn't say welcome on the 19th. Did I say that? Monday. I said that already. Okay. So, yes, today we're celebrating the disappearance day of Rāmānuja Acharya, such a stalwart, powerful personality. He was the first personality in our in our lineage, to establish opposition to Sankaracharya's Advaitavad. Sankaracharya manifested something like 800 AD. Ramanuja manifested 1017. And prior to Sankaracharya, there was Sakya Singha Buddha. That was about 2,500 years ago. And then there was Buddha Avatar, was about 4,000 years ago. So since Buddha Avatar, since Krishna departed 5,000 years ago, so just to try and get the context of Ramanuja, try and get his time frame, his history frame, that's what I'm trying to present initially, just so we can get a picture of where he sits and appreciate his potency in the current of Shuddha Bhakti. So coming through the Alvars after Krishna, then we can even go back further and we can appreciate, I described the other day, in Satya Yuga, the principal meditation is tapasya, but the attainment is very much Aishwarya. And it goes like that in Dwapara Yuga and in Treta Yuga and in Dwapara Yuga. The attainment is very much Aishwarya orientated. And moksha is the principal conclusion of the various sadhans that are practiced. It's not, perhaps a rare soul is going to go to Vaikuntha. It's rare that Vaikuntha bhav will manifest in the heart of someone. And even that, we've discussed, is like a glorified, liberated condition. It's the position of Salokya, Samipya, Sarupya, what is it? Sharsti. Yes, these four liberation, and it's 2.5 rasas. So this was the attainment prior. And then we have Krishna, of course, who's bringing Braja Prem to this world, but he's not distributing that Braja Prem. He's tasting it himself. Maybe Uddhav spoke some degree in Dwarka, but in principle, he wasn't distributing Braja Prem. It's only now that Braja Prem has been distributed by Mahaprabhu. So Ramanuja, he comes after Krishna. So how many years is that? 4,000 years ago was Buddha Avatar. 2,500 years ago was Sakya Singha Buddha, the second Buddha. And then is Sankaracharya, which is 800. You're the mathematician. 800 AD. So then Ramanuja is appearing 200 years after Sankaracharya. But appreciate that prior to Sankaracharya, the Buddhistic philosophy of the Buddha avatar and the false Sakya Singha Buddha avatar were very prevalent. This impersonalism was absolutely rampant in Bharatvash. All practically were impersonalists. That's how it was. And certainly Sankaracharya, he gave a boost to that, and he preached the philosophy of Advaitavad. Everything is one. And then Ramanuja appeared, the Rāmānuja, the brother of Ram, Lakshman. He was actually called Lakshman in his youth. His childhood name was Lakshman, and his father was a great Brahmin who performed yagyas, and he prayed for a powerful son to inspire the hearts of the populace towards bhakti, towards worship of a personality. So Ramanuja, or Lakshman, he manifested at that time, and he inaugurates the Sri Sampradaya. This is the Lakshmi Sampradaya. These are his Lakshmi Devi and Narayan, his Ishtadevs. So his preaching is called Vaishishtya Advaitavad. That means Vaishishtya means a speciality or a unique quality within the oneness. Vaishishtya means speciality in the oneness. In other words, he's making a point that it's not just one, but there's a speciality within the one. He's referencing that actually there are two. There is the Jiva and there is Krishna. Because previously, the philosophy was to attain the Brahman and this oneness. This was the philosophy that most were engrossed in, because Sankaracharya was a very powerful personality. So Rāmānuja, simultaneously, he was a very powerful personality, but he was preaching this Vaishishta Advaitavad, that there's a speciality within the oneness. And he wasn't like driving it home in the same way that Madhvacharya does 100 years later. Madhvacharya comes 100 years after Rāmānuja. First there's Rāmānuja in 1017. Then about 1137 manifests Madhvacharya. Then after Madhvacharya is Vallabha Acharya and then Nimbaditya. And they're all gradually evolving to a much more personal conception of the Supreme, of worship of the conception, all in preparation for Mahaprabhu's advent. It's evolving that way. We can see it. The Sampradayas, they're evolving through the different conceptions. So Rāmānuja is more like we would term a soft cell, so to speak. He almost presented himself like an Advaitavad, but actually he put the twist of the personality within there, because he preached two prominent topics or teachings that Mahaprabhu actually took from the Sri Sampradaya. Mahaprabhu takes two topics from each of the Sampradayas, and the topics from Rāmānuja, or the qualities from Rāmānuja, are devotional service and service to the Vaishnavas. These two teachings is what Mahaprabhu took. And these were two most prominent teachings of Rāmānujacharya, to distribute and propagate pure devotional service. This is what he advocated. So he was an extremely powerful personality. And we know in his youth, he was born near Kanchipuram, about 32 kilometers, I think, south of Kanchipuram. And he was enrolled in one Gurukul, and his the Gurukul guru was called Yadav Prakash. Yadav Prakash was the same as everybody else and just an Advaitavad. He was the same, but Rāmānuja wasn't. And there was a very famous incident where Rāmānuja was massaging his guru, and his guru was listening to this beautiful verse, Tasya Yata Kapasyasam Pundariksham Akishnina. How do you say that? Akishini. And he was interpreting this word, kapayasam, which indicates the color of Krishna's eyes. And he was interpreting the color of Krishna's eyes to be like the red backside of a monkey. And when Rāmānuja, he heard that, he was so unhappy and hurt that his guru should have described those beautiful lotus eyes of Krishna in such a gross way that he began to weep while he was massaging Yadava Prakash, and his hot tears fell on his back. And Yadav Prakash commented, "Oh, my dear boy, has something bad happened in the family that you're weeping?" And then he said, No, I'm so unhappy with your explanation of this." And then Yadav Prakash said, "So what is your explanation?" Then he explains that this kapyasam means the lotus, or the color lotus of the reddish sun. When it rises, it inspires the lotus to open. So it's that reddish crimson sun that is the color. That is the comparison, not the backside of a monkey, but the beautiful sunrise, the crimson sun of the sunrise. So he explained it like this very beautifully. And Yadav Prakash, he realized at that time, he'd already known, but he realized at that time, this boy is very, very, very intelligent. This boy is more intelligent than me. This boy will cut my arguments to pieces later on. And he built an animosity towards Ramanuja, even though externally he tried to cover it up and everything, because they're refined people, but he tried to cover up this fear he felt. And then he decided in his mind that actually, I'm going to kill this boy, which is quite dramatic. And he decided that they would go on a forest excursion. And in that excursion, he would arrange for Ramanuja to be killed. Because these personalities, we should understand, this is their life and soul. This is what I said about Advaitavad, the mood, the mentality. It's not like the uh, it's very harsh, actually, this mood of wanting to be the absolute guru, that there's no softness in there, this Advaitavad, because he just only believes in the Brahman. There's no personal sambandha with the Supreme in their philosophy. So he could just quite callously decide to murder Ramanuja. So they go to the forest, and Ramanuja's brother, or not brother, cousin, Govinda, he's amongst all the other kids that are going on this excursion. And he hears about the plot, and he relates this to Ramanuja. And Ramanuja immediately leaves the group. But now he's just stuck in a deep, dark forest, and he doesn't really know where to go or anything. And he's moving around, etc. And nighttime comes, and he sees a hunter and his wife, to his great relief. And he begs them direction. They ask him where he's going. He's saying to Kanchipuram. And they say, oh, we are going to Kanchipuram also. We'll go together. And then Ramanuja, he takes rest at that time, and he wakes up in the morning, and he's in Kanchipuram. And then he realizes this must have been my Ishtadev, Sri Lakshmi Narayan. This hunter and his wife was in fact Sri Lakshmi Narayan. And then he becomes overwhelmed in bliss. Ramanuja is a very advanced personality. He's the brother of Ram, Lakshman. He's come for a purpose. So he's had this darshan of Lakshmi Narayan. And then he makes his way to his home. And then his mother, his father left the world very early, just like Nitai's father left the world very early, just like Lakshman's father left the world prematurely, Dasarath. So only his mother is there, and they're very surprised that he's actually come home so soon. And then he explains everything, what had happened. And they're, of course, like shocked that this should have happened. But sometime later, it's described, Yadav Prakash comes back, and he again starts his school. And somehow or other, Ramanuja decides to go back to that school again. And he joins the school again. And he listens to the teachings of Yadav Prakash, even though he's totally an Advaitavad. And he's hearing these teachings, but then after a while, he leaves that school. He learns all his Sanskrit studies, etc., completes his education, and he leaves that school. And then it's described after, there's an incident while he's in the school that Yadav Prakash has been invited by one king of Chola, it's described. That king's daughter has become um, uh, ghostly haunted. A ghost has come into his daughter. So the king, he calls Yadav Prakash because he knows Yadav Prakash knows many mantras, etc. So Yadav Prakash decides to take Ramanuja with him to impress Ramanuja at what a great devotee, what a great scholar he is with mantras, etc. So Rāmānuja accompanies Yadav Prakash to Chola. And when Yadav Prakash confronts the haunted girl, the ghost exhibits himself. He says, "Your mantras can't affect me at all. I am much more powerful." He says like that. And all the court, they all see that Yadav Prakash, so his prestige becomes diminished. And then the ghost says, the only reason why I would leave this girl is if your disciple, your follower, Rāmānuja, if he puts his feet on the girl's head, only then will I leave her body. So they're all like surprised by this. So um, Yadav Prakash, he's there in the audience, the assembly. He has to do what the ghost is saying. So Rāmānuja, he does like that, and immediately the ghost departs. The girl, she faints, and then when she comes to her senses, the ghost has left her. And all are praising Rāmānuja. So again, like Yadav Prakash became thwarted by this personality. So then they return to the ashram, and Rāmānuja, he decides at that time that he wants to take initiation from Yamuna Acharya. But before he goes to Yamuna Acharya, he hears of one of Yamuna Acharya's disciples called Goshtapuram, who knows some very, very liberating, powerful mantras. And if he goes, this Goshtipuram will give him one of these this mantra, this sacred mantra. So he goes to the ashram. He asked Goshtipuram for that mantra that will relieve all suffering in existence for that individual. And Goshtipuram, he says, well, I have to examine you first. You have to stay in my ashram for 6 months, and then I'll see if you're qualified to receive this mantra. So Rāmānuja, he stays in the ashram. And after 6 months in the ashram, he goes to Goshtipuram, and Goshtipuram gives him this mantra. And he says, on one condition, that you never tell anybody this mantra. This mantra is totally sacred and cannot be distributed amongst anybody. So he gives him this mantra. The mantra is very simple for us. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This is the mantra that he's been given by Goshtipuram. And as soon as Goshtipuram gives him this mantra, what does Rāmānuja do? He goes into the center of the town. He climbs into a large, like a spire tower in the center of town, and he calls all the townspeople there. And then he tells them, I want to liberate you all from your material suffering. I'm going to give you all a mantra. And he chants the mantra to all the people who come, thousands and thousands of people. He chants very loudly this mantra. And then he comes down from that tower and he goes straight to the ashram of Goshtipuram, of course, has heard what he's done and is so infuriated and angry. He says, now you will go to hell. I told you on the threat of going to hell if you repeat this mantra to anybody else, and you've just told the whole township this mantra. And Rāmānuja at that time, he says, I don't mind going to hell. If I can help liberate all the people of this township, I will do like that. So Goshtipuram, he's very touched to see and witness the compassionate mood of Rāmānuja at that time. And he becomes silent. And later on, in the pastimes, it's described that actually he comes to take initiation from Rāmānuja. This is the mood of Rāmānuja. This is his preaching, his mood like this. He's very, very compassionate to everybody. So then he hears then about Yamuna Acharya. So he goes to Sri Rangam to take shelter, and he wants to surrender himself to Yamuna Acharya. But when he arrives at the ashram, Yamuna Acharya has just left this world, and Rāmānuja is mortified. And the Rāmānuja's body is there on a... Huh? What did I say? Oh, sorry. Thank you. So Yamuna Acharya's body is there on a bed, and he's just left his body. And Rāmānuja and all the disciples are there. But Yamuna Acharya he notices it has three of his fingers tightly closed. The other hand is completely open, but three of his fingers are completely closed. And then somehow Ramanuja, he's inspired when he's standing there next to the body of Yamuna Acharya, and he says very loudly, I vow that I will write a commentary on pure bhakti, a Sri Bhasya commentary on the Vedanta. And he takes this vow, and one of his fingers opens immediately. And then he says, I vow that I will preach the bhakti cult all over India. Then another finger opens. And then he says, I vow that I will secure your successor as Parashara. And another finger opens. So that's all three. And all the disciples, they witness this. And even though they know that he has never had darshan directly, they all declare that he is actually the most bona fide of the disciples. And they all declare that he should now become the acharya of the ashram of the mutt. And Ramanuja is prepared to accept that responsibility. But he says, first of all, I'm going to come and stay with each of you for 3 or 4 months and listen to your Harikatha and what you can teach me about the precepts of Yamuna Acharya. So he does like that. For 4 or 5 years, he visits and stays with all the different disciples and hears all the different teachings of Yamuna Acharya and becomes very familiar with the teachings. And his goal, his vision, of course, is to initiate this bhakti wave in the world to stem this impersonal tide. But he's saying it in a very soft way, so to speak. He's just saying there's a speciality, this Vaishishya. He's not like Madhvacharya going very, very strong at it like that, but he's preaching the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. He begins to uh, begin the waves of Bhakti Devi, being guided by his Ishtadev, who is Lakshmi Narayan, and he's preaching this Lakshmi Narayan mood and consciousness, and he's preaching devotional service, which was never preached previously. Devotional service to an object. Previously, in Advaitavad and coming from Lord Buddha, etc., all the impersonal philosophies, they never had an object to their worship, to their devotion. It was simply impersonal. But now Ramanuja is teaching, no, you have to worship Lakshmi Narayan. So this was his strong preaching mood that he propagated. And then he also preached that one must serve the Vaishnavas, that by serving the Vaishnavas, this will give the mercy from Lakshmi Narayan to actually have awareness and connection with Lakshmi Narayan. So this was his intention. So he propagated all over India this philosophy of Vaishishta Advaitavad. And people, because of his powerful nature and very compassionate mood, his teachings were very much accepted. So this Sri Sampradaya, it became very much a part of our lineage today. We have the Sri Sampradaya. It's very much, and Mahaprabhu, he took these two teachings from that Sampradaya. And we hear that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he also spent much time studying the teachings of the Ramanujas. They had many disciplines, many very exemplary um, ways of conducting their sadhan bhajan. And he took these and he distributed amongst the Gaudiyas these teachings of Ramanuja. There's 2 books in particular that he published describing the teachings of Ramanuja. He admired them for their devotional aspiration and fervor. But just to see historically how Ramanuja was such a powerful influence in initiating the current of bhakti, because unless Ramanuja had made this first impression, it would have been much more difficult for Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya, he established the murti of Gopal, in fact. That was the first murti he established. and he defeated the Mayavadis very, very strongly. So these were the two um, uh, teachings of Madhvacharya principally. So, um, and without these two personal, Madhvacharya, he's like Hanuman and Bhimsen combined. And Rāmānuja, he of course is Lakshman, the younger brother of Ram. So both these powerful personalities were needed to check that impersonal flow, because that impersonal flow goes right back to the time when Krishna departed. It's like the beginning of the age of Kali, when that um, first um, deformity of devotional service became apparent and was checking men's consciousnesses, was at that time, just straight after Krishna left. It's described as soon as Krishna leaves this world, Kali Maharaj, he enters very strongly. He enters in this way. He enters in the way of influencing everyone towards impersonalism. And we understand how easy it is for the conditioned soul to feel an affinity with impersonalism, because we've just come, our soul has come from an impersonal conception. We've come from the Brahmajyoti. We have an impression still. We've come from that. We haven't come from Goloka Vrindavan. We haven't come from Vaikuntha. We've come from the Brahmajyoti, and we've come into the body of Mahavishnu, etc. So we have that we have that impression of impersonalism. So it's quite simple for us just to again accept that impersonal teachings and have our focus on the Brahman. So we see principally that um, these four Purusarthas that were prominent even up to the time of Vyasadeva, when he first wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this also was just after Krishna. But even up to the time of Krishna, the principal focus was on Dharma, Artha, Karma, Moksha. This was the principal focus of all the practicing sadhaks. They all wanted this moksha. That's what they wanted. This moksha was the goal. There was no clear pathway into the realm of bhakti, but Rāmānuja, he began that pathway into bhakti, which was worshipping Lakshmi Narayan. But what is the consequence of worshipping Lakshmi Narayan? It's Vaikuntha. And what is Vaikuntha realm I've just described previously is more like a glorified, liberated condition, in fact. It's better than the Brahman, without a doubt. The Brahman has no sambandha. In Vaikuntha there is, because there's Lakshmi Narayan to focus our worship on. So that is very wonderful. But the teachings that we have today, in contrast, this is really what I want to emphasize, because understanding Rāmānuja, Madhvacharya, Nimbaditya, Balabhacharya, etc., it shows us just how amazing are the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He carries us to a completely different conception that wasn't even heard of previously. So this is the teachings of Mahaprabhu. And we should also understand another point about the four sampradayas, is that they all preached the mood of Vastu Parinamvad. In other words, Krishna is transforming into all of this world. It's Krishna himself who's transforming. But Mahaprabhu, he said, no, it's not Krishna who's transforming. It's Shakti who is transforming. Krishna doesn't actually do anything. Krishna is he's like the Braj prince in Vrindavan. It's Shakti Ma who is Srimati Radhika ultimately, who does everything. That Swarup Shakti is manifesting everything within the worlds. It's not Krishna. So Mahaprabhu, he reconciled this in all of the sampradayas, because they all, from Rāmānuja downwards, etc., they all supported this Vastu Parinamvad. Whereas Mahaprabhu, he gave the true Siddhanta of Shakti Parinamvad. So just appreciate today on Rāmānuja's Tirobhava what a powerful personality he was, what a very colorful, incredible life he demonstrated to the world. There are so many miracles and so on that he performed, but all focusing on developing bhakti to the object of bhakti, who is Lakshmi Narayan. So we should appreciate how this was 10,000 years ago, 1017. That was when he was born. That was his era. So this was a long, long time previously. So we see how this current of bhakti, even though this age has become so much dark and fallen in this Kali Yuga, nevertheless, the actual attainment has increased remarkably from Satya. I described this the other day. From Satya Yuga coming through to Kali Yuga, everything has actually increased devotionally wise. Externally, it looks like everything is really degraded, etc. Man's qualities are fully degraded and so on. But the attainments that can be achieved now to what the attainments were previously, even in the time of Vyasadeva, just before Vyasadeva wrote this Bhagavatam, his principal teachings throughout were Dharma, Artha, Karma, Moksha, Gyan Kand and Karma Kand. That is what he'd been teaching. That was why he was feeling despondent in his ashram at Samyaprash. And then when Narad came, and Narad benedicted him with that trance, and within that trance, that's described in the 7th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, then he sees Krishna in Vrindavan. He sees Mother Yashoda. He sees Krishna being bound to a grinding mortar. And then he realizes this nature of Madhurya. This Madhurya there wasn't even a flavor of Madhurya Ras previously. So by hearing about the different sampradayas, etc., and the acharyas in the sampradayas, it will help us to appreciate more fully the glory of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu today. These personalities were glorious in their own right. Of course they were. But nevertheless, at the same time, for us sadhaks, following the precepts of the Goswamis, particularly Rupa Goswami, etc., then these teachings were not even remotely, they could not be absorbed by the populace if they manifested at that time, without the mercy of the avatar who was going to give that liberal mood to the populace to be able to have the adhikar to hear these teachings. And of course, the power of the holy name. The holy name was there throughout, but it wasn't empowered as it is today by Mahaprabhu. So just to appreciate this current of bhakti that is coming, we can appreciate the history from Satya Yuga coming through the different ages. I'll put a file on our WhatsApp thread from the 11th canto, which delineates, I spoke about it the other day, but I'll put a file up just to make it very clear of the different attainments, etc., and the qualities within each. I find it quite fascinating to appreciate this, that in Satya Yuga, for example, there were those 4 good qualities. No envy. Surit, everyone was friendly to each other. Somaha, they were beyond the material modes of nature. And Shantaha, these 4 qualities were present everywhere in Satya Yuga. Men didn't have to worry to their confused mind or anything like that. They were just focused on their worship of the attainment of ultimately moksha, because Parameshwara is one of the avatars that appears. So he is offering that goal of moksha, this Paramatma. Paramatma realization is like just beyond moksha. It's not, doesn't have that personality involved. Paramatma is somewhat impersonal. Everyone has Paramatma. You understand? You follow? So that was the condition in Satya Yuga. And in Treta Yuga, you remember, there was 2 good qualities. And the principal mode of worship was yagya. And those qualities were Dharmavardinaha and Brahmavardinaha. They were expert brahmanas, and they were expert at understanding what was dharma, what is nimitic dharma. They were understanding that. So they lived their lives accordingly. And then again, the avatars that descended at that time were like Vamanadev and so on. So they would perform those yagyas to achieve a liberated condition. It was all about achieving liberation. Where does pure Shuddha Bhakti actually manifest? Of course, there were individuals who were practicing Shuddha Bhakti. Shuddha Bhakti has always been present, but it wasn't prominent. We're talking about the stage of the whole communities of bhaktas, but not the Shuddha Bhaktas. The Shuddha Bhaktas were there doing their very quietly their connection with the Lord. But the actual stage, so to speak, was of this so much Aishwarya. And we have come through our teachings to take something much more beyond Aishwarya. We read just the 4th chapter of the Adi Lila in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Krishna, he's saying he's not impressed by someone who thinks that I'm so great and so on. I'm the Lord of all the universes. This doesn't really impress me. Whereas that one who has the capacity to climb on my shoulders and say, what sort of big man do you think you are? This is really impressing for the Supreme Lord in Madhurya. But these teachings were never revealed previously, certainly not in Rāmānuja's time. So I feel that by our meditation on these personalities, we first of all glorify their remarkable contribution to our sampradayas, etc. And Rāmānuja gave so many powerful teachings in the mode of goodness, etc., how to conduct our lives correctly, these dharmic teachings. But the ultimate goal, how was he demonstrating the ultimate goal? It was to worship Lakshmi Narayan. But even that goal, how limited is that goal compared to the teachings of Mahaprabhu and Rupa Goswami? You understand? It's like remarkable. It's not that we're honoring that entirely, of course, but we do appreciate the extreme glories of Mahaprabhu in comparison to what Rāmānuja is actually distributing, even though Rāmānuja began the whole current of bhakti against, which was very um, a powerful check on this teachings of Advaitavad. He began to turn the corner, and then it turned even more with Madhvacharya, then even more with Vishnu Swami in the Shiva Sampradaya, and then the Nimbaditya, the Kumara Sampradaya. They actually worship Sri Radha. In the Nimbaditya, they worship Sri Radha, and the second one, they take shelter of Radha, and they're aspiring for Gopi Prem. This is the aspiration in Nimbaditya, but they don't have a conception of Parakiya. They didn't have all these personalities, by the way, they all met Mahaprabhu in Rudradvip at different times before Mahaprabhu manifested. They all had his darshan because they're all connected. Just see how amazing is Krishna's arrangement in the world to propagate Shuddha Bhakti ultimately. He's arranging for this whole stream of energy from these powerful personalities who are going to um, manifest and substantiate these sampradayas. Without the sampradayas, then there's no support for those personalities who want Shuddha Bhakti. There's no container for them. This is what we're going to discuss in length in this next 12th chapter of Jayavadharma. Bhaktivinoda Thakur brings this out. He asks the question, what is the need for a sampradaya? There's a whole discussion here where Babaji, he reveals the nature of the importance of the sampradaya. So Rāmānuja is the forerunner of all these sampradayas. So he's beginning it. It's starting like that. So we are celebrating today this manifestation of this powerful personality, and so grateful to all these Sampradaya Acharyas for giving us clear, because it's evolving. The teachings are evolving from Rāmānuja, then they become more potent in Madhvacharya, then even more potent again. in Vishnu Swami, and again, even more potent in Nimbaditya. It's an accumulation. This is how I've understood it. And I presented it one time in front of my Gurudev in this way, when we were having Gopuranim festival. And my Gurudev was very satisfied. He said, good, yes. This evolving, or this evolution of consciousness, because that's basically how the sampradayas are carrying. And the culmination, of course, is Mahaprabhu. So then our appreciation of Mahaprabhu is so much more supreme when we realize how I don't think so often we realize just how fortunate we are. We just talk about Prema Bhakti, Goloka Vrindavan, like it's just a normal kind of thing. But it was never even heard of, not even remotely. Previously, as I've been describing, it was practically all Mayavad, just Brahmavad. That was where the goal and focus of everyone's life was basically on moksha. And then it evolved to pure bhakti, Shuddha bhakti. But what was the object of that bhakti was Lakshmi Narayan. So it wasn't widely understood. This is the history. I don't think I've explained it very well, but this is my understanding to date. And I hope that in future my understanding will become deeper on this topic. But I'm just always fascinated personally by history and the way bhakti evolves from Satya Yuga on down and how it's manifesting. And it accentuates, as I'm saying constantly, the glories of Mahaprabhu, to see what gifts he's giving. It puts him in a totally elevated situation when we realize what was prior to him. Parakiya Ras? Who would understand Parakiya Ras? Without Mahaprabhu adventing to tell us about Parakiya Ras, nobody, even Jiva Goswami, when he was writing, he had followers who were only stubbornly holding to Swakya Ras. So he even included that in his commentaries, some place for the Swakya Ras conception to be supported. But that's not the ultimate conclusion. And we've certainly heard from my Gurudev that this, and from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he writes one beautiful essay called Raising the Divine Conception. And this is all about the Bhagavatam, and all about the Bhagavatam culminating through the 12 cantos. It culminates in Parakiya Ras. That's the highest conception in the Bhagavatam. But this Parakiya Ras wasn't even considered in the time of Rāmānuja. That wasn't something that could even be spoken about. First, I mean, Lakshmi Narayan don't even have parents. You know, they don't. What is the nature of that relationship, that sambhog that you have with Lakshmi Narayan? Of course, it's remarkable and it's astonishing, and I can't understand it. It's achintya. At the same time, I've heard the teachings of Mahaprabhu, and they completely uh, go to another dimension altogether. So it makes me very, very grateful, more grateful for Mahaprabhu. But the teachings of Rāmānuja are powerful and so divine. And what he gave those residents, particularly in South India, he gave them an opportunity to perform devotion. Previously, they hadn't been performing devotion to Lakshmi Narayan even. It was just Advaitavad. So he was the first one to cut that. He was the first one to challenge that, Sankaracharya. So he's very, very powerful personality. So Sri Rāmānuja Acharya ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Gold Premanandi. These conceptions I'm just understanding from my readings and so on, my studying, my hearing, and I would appreciate more in this channel to get the entire strength of I think this example of the ages from Satya Treta and from the 11th canto that I'll publish on the thread is very helpful to get the history line. So Rāmānuja Acharya ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Rāmānuja Acharya ki jai. Sachinandan Gaura Hari ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Vanshakalpa Tarubhyascha. Kripa Sindhavebhya. Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnave Namo Namaha.